Veronica, the mother of Theresa Caputo, a medium from Long Island, has become very ill. Doctors say she requires cardiac surgery right away because of a fatty buildup in her heart. Doctors say he might have died of a heart attack if he had remained in this state for a few more days. When Theresa heard this news, she was extremely shaken, because she is deeply concerned about her mother's well-being and loves her very much. Theresa is always praying for her mother's recovery while Veronica is in the hospital. The renowned Long Island medium, Theresa Caputo, had dedicated the most of her life to providing consolation to others and bridging the gap between the living and the dead. She has sent messages of compassion and healing from beyond while sitting across from innumerable strangers. However, she had never been prepared for the news that arrived one cold Monday morning. Earlier than usual, her phone rang. A nurse from the Hicksville hospital was on the other end. "Mrs. We need you to get here fast, Caputo. Veronica, your mother, has been admitted. It's really serious." Theresa felt her heart fall into her gut. Her hands shaking on the car wheel, she hurried out of her house. The typically brief drive seemed to go on forever. Her brother was already in the waiting area, pacing up and down, when she got there. At last, the doctor emerged, his face composed but solemn. "Your mother's heart has a large accumulation of fatty deposits. She requires surgery right away. She might have had a deadly heart attack in a few days if we hadn't discovered this sooner." The comment struck Theresa like a blow. The world around her fell silent for a moment. From her early years to her first heartbreak to the hardships of divorce and stardom, she reflected on all the times her mother had been her rock. Her constant light had always been Veronica. That light was flickering now. Theresa's eyes filled with tears. "Do anything you can, please. Simply save her." Theresa found herself walking the antiseptic hospital hallways as her mother was brought into surgery. She gripped her rosary tightly and muttered prayers to herself. Then, however, something occurred that was both horrifying and oddly reassuring. She sensed someone was there. Theresa had always been able to detect spirits, but this time it was different. The air became warmer and heavier, and all of a sudden, she could feel her late father Nick's soul standing next to her. In her head, she heard him say, "Theresa, don't be scared. I'm with her here." She started crying when she read the message. "Please, Dad, don't take her just yet. I'm not prepared. None of us are." However, the presence merely encircled her in a hug. It was consoling, but it wasn't a guarantee. Hours went by. Each minute seemed to go on forever. Holding Theresa's hand and attempting to maintain her strength, her daughter Victoria came. "Grandma is harsh, Ma. She will overcome this obstacle." "She must." At last, the surgeon came out and took off his mask. Theresa clenched her teeth. He declared the surgery was successful. "She is stable now that the obstruction has been removed. Although your mother made it, the healing process will be lengthy." Theresa broke down in a fit of relief. She gave the doctor, her brother, and her kids hugs. For the first time, the woman who always gave people courage let herself be weak, just a daughter who almost lost her mother. Theresa sat beside Veronica, holding her weak hand, as she opened her eyes in the recovery room that night. With a trembling giggle, she muttered, "Ma, you scared the life out of me." Her mother gave her a feeble smile. "It won't be easy for you to get rid of me." Through tears, Theresa chuckled. She came to the crucial realization that, despite her amazing talent, she was still a human. She had the ability to communicate with spirits and give healing messages, but all she could do for her own mother was to pray, hope, and maintain her faith. Perhaps that was the most important lesson of all. Theresa made a self-promise to spend more time with her mother after that day. She recognized that nothing was more valuable than the live relationships in front of her, regardless of how hectic her business got or how many events or readings she had. Because, despite her ability to communicate with the dead, she found the most delight in doing everything in her power to keep her loved ones alive. But Long Island's suburban roadways were painted a beautiful gold as the morning sun flooded across the island. When Theresa Caputo's phone chimed, she had just finished her coffee. She received the mail from a producer she had previously collaborated with, who sometimes introduced her to odd instances. "We have something different for you, Theresa," the text said. According to a child from Queens, he is a medium, but he adds that spirits are teaching him things in addition to seeing them. "You should meet him," according to his mother. "Are you available?" Theresa cocked her head, half inquisitive, half doubtful. Although she had encountered many people who claimed to have gifts, it was uncommon, and frequently overwhelming, for a youngster to possess such powers. Her heart, however, told her that she had to leave. Theresa drove out to a little townhouse that afternoon. She was met at the door by a worried woman in her late 30s. "I appreciate you coming," she muttered. "My name is Rosa. And this is Daniel, my kid." Daniel had large brown eyes that seemed older than his years, although only being 12. He had a little rosary in his hands and wore a plain hoodie. He didn't have the expression of a youngster greeting a TV personality as he gazed at Theresa. It was the expression of someone who was familiar with her. Daniel remarked quietly, "You don't have to explain who you are. They told me you were coming already." Theresa's arms began to get cold. "Who told you, my love?" Daniel's gaze moved a little to the room's corner, where Theresa herself was now experiencing a tingling sensation. Daniel muttered, "The man behind you. He claims that Joseph is his name. He is your grandfather." Theresa gasped for air. Her grandfather Joseph, who had served as her spiritual mentor since childhood, was only known to her immediate family. That name was unknown to the boy. Theresa kept a tight eye on Daniel as they sat at the kitchen table. Despite his shyness, his whole manner changed when he talked about spirits. "They mostly come to me at night," he said. "They can be bewildered at times or unhappy at others. However, they are aware that I hear them. They give me information that I shouldn't know. Like," he paused, his little hands shaking, "like Dad's experience." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. When Daniel was 5 years old, his father passed away. He was unaware of the specifics. Daniel met Theresa's eyes directly. He didn't pass away as everyone had claimed. He wasn't alone in the car. He made an effort to keep his pal safe. They constantly demonstrating that to me, him shielding someone else. Rosa started crying. She had guessed it but never verified it. Theresa put her hand over Daniel's as she reached across the table. "That's a really serious message for someone your age to carry, sweetie." Daniel cast his gaze downward. "That's the reason I'm afraid. They are constantly talking. I'm not sure how to keep them out." Theresa thought the roles were reversed for once. She was usually the one assisting others in comprehending the spirit world. However, she was now mentoring a child who might possess skills that were on par with, or even better than her own. She added softly, "Being a medium is not a curse, Daniel. It's a present. However, there is a responsibility as well. You are in charge, but the spirits are drawn to your light. When to listen and when to take a break are up to you." Daniel scowled. "However, what if I fail to assist them? What if they become irate?" Theresa leaned in and spoke in a forceful yet gentle tone. "Spirit is not enraged. Spirit merely want recognition. You are free to live your life and set boundaries in the same manner that you would tell a friend. I can't talk right now. You are free to act like a child." As though he had never heard someone allow him to just be, the boy's eyes softened. Daniel's expression abruptly changed once more. He looked off into the distance, staring behind Theresa's shoulder. He said, "She's here." A long-haired woman holding flowers. Rosa let out a gasp. "Mom." Daniel gave a slow nod. "She claims that she never intended to leave you so abruptly. She claims that 'don't be afraid' was the last thing she wanted to say to you." "Oh, and she's holding a baby. A girl baby." Rosa gripped her chest tightly. She broke down in tears. "I miscarried shortly after Daniel was born. My mother used to say that she would take care of the child in paradise." Theresa, an experienced medium, experienced a surge of energy in the room that caused goosebumps to appear on her arms. That's when she realized Daniel wasn't dreaming. His offering was genuine, unadulterated, and potent. Theresa couldn't get the boy out of her mind as she drove home later. She had been known as the Long Island medium for years, but She had recently met someone who might carry on the tradition in a way she never could have predicted. She considered the audiences, the cameras, and the doubters who invariably sought evidence. However, what she had seen in that tiny kitchen was more than just evidence. Speaking through a child's innocence, it was pure energy. Behind the read, behind the skepticism, the programs, and the fame, Theresa came to understand that her actual function was more than simply conveying messages from the afterlife. It was to lead those who will eventually stand at the intersection of worlds, like Daniel. Theresa Caputo experienced something uncommon for the first time in years, the prospect of legacy rather than the burden of ghosts. But in Hicksville, Long Island, it was a cold fall evening. The Long Island medium, Theresa Caputo, had just concluded a private reading with a family who were mourning the unexpected death of their father. She put all of her attention into relaying the messages from their loved one, providing consolation and hope as usual. However, she saw something strange that evening. Theresa discovered an ancient, dusty shoebox on a tiny side table in her reading room after the family had left. She couldn't recall carrying it there. She hadn't placed it either, according to her assistant. A 1970s-style tape recorder with hefty buttons and a worn leather strap was inside the box, wrapped in a yellowed handkerchief. Theresa cautiously lifted it out, intrigued. The recorder felt heavier than it should have, as though memories were being carried together with the metal and cables. Anticipating nothing more than static, she hit the play button. Rather, the room was filled with the tremulous, broken voice of a man. "If anyone finds this tape, please listen. My name is Anthony Russo. I don't know how much time I have left. They say the dead can't speak, but if this reaches you, know that I'll try. I'll try through this machine." Theresa stopped. The electricity that surged through her body was indisputable, even though she didn't personally know an Anthony Russo. There was spirit. She felt the hair on her arms stand on end. She took the recorder to one of her planned group readings the next day. With a strong, excited Long Island accent, she told the small group of individuals what she had discovered. "Listen, I must warn you all that spirit is a crazy person. Even for me, this is new, even if they occasionally move objects and flicker lights. Whoever Anthony Russo is, he wants to be heard, and I found this tape recorder." A woman in the group let out a gasp. She was a middle-aged woman with teary eyes named Maria Russo. She muttered, "My father was Anthony Russo. He died in an automobile accident 40 years ago. He passed away before he could bid us farewell, so we never found closure." There was silence in the room. The electric energy in the air was palpable to all. After setting the recorder in the center of the table, Theresa hit play once more. This time, following a screech of static, the same eerie voice spoke again, but with different words. "Maria, sweetheart, I didn't mean to leave you that night. I was coming home. I wanted to tell you how proud I was. Don't cry for me anymore." With tears running down her cheeks, Maria gripped her chest. She had always questioned whether her father would have been pleased with her, but she had never mentioned this to anyone, save Spirit in her prayers. Theresa kept the recorder nearby as she took readings throughout the course of the following few weeks. Oddly, it appeared to only turn on when Anthony's family members were around. Anthony once had a session with his grandson, whom he had never met before. Once more, the recorder crackled, and a faint but clear message was transmitted. "Christopher, even though I wasn't there, I've watched you grow. You have my strength. Take care of your mother." Christopher sobbed in shock. He had always harbored bitterness because he had never met his grandfather. His heart warmed that night. However, Anthony wasn't the sole subject of the recorder. Before long, snippets of messages from various spirits started to flow through the static, accompanied by additional voices. They were definitely there, albeit some were obvious and others were merely murmurs. Theresa came to the remarkable realization that this tape recorder was more than a mere artifact. It served as a conduit, a means by which the spirit's utterances could be grounded in the material world. Theresa sat by herself with the recorder one evening after a long day. Instead of pressing play, she was compelled to press record. She pressed the button, whispered into it, and said, "I'm listening, spirit, if you need to talk and you're out there." Silence for a few minutes. Then a voice, not Anthony's, not someone she knew, came out weakly. It stated, "Theresa, thank you. You are our bridge. Use this gift carefully." A sudden warmth permeated the room, like if 100 invisible hands were softly resting on her shoulders. Tears clouded Theresa's eyes. This moment seemed unusual, even for someone who had communicated with spirit for decades. Word got around fast. Before long, individuals started requesting not only readings but also the opportunity to hear their loved ones via the enigmatic recorder. Theresa consented, but with caution, understanding that spirit made the decisions about when and how to speak. The voices were very clear at times. At other times, the air was filled with static, reminding everyone that the opposing side could only be respected and not controlled. The following disturbing message was played on the recorder at a large group reading in Manhattan one night. "Do not fear death. It is only another room in the same house." In utter stillness, the audience sat. While some prayed and others sobbed aloud, everyone went home feeling more at ease. The tape recorder is sitting on a shelf at Theresa's house. She never pushes it and doesn't use it daily. The little machine, however, occasionally crackles to life with sounds from beyond when spirit determines the time is appropriate. For Theresa, it serves as a reminder that connection is the main theme of her work, not celebrity, TV, or even the readings themselves. A link between the dead and the living. Sometimes that bridge is constructed of an old, forgotten tape recorder speaking across the curtain, rather than visions or signs. But over the years, Theresa Caputo had read to thousands of people. She was accustomed to believers, doubters, and those in between. But she had a sense that something out of the ordinary was going to happen as she entered her tiny reading room one crisp Long Island fall morning. The pleasant aroma of vanilla candles permeated the area, which was dimly illuminated. The seats were set up well, and on the tiny wooden table in the center were a bottle of water, a box of tissues, and a notebook in which she wrote any messages that came in. As Theresa frequently said, "It's not me, it's spirit." That day, a man named David was her client. He was tall but slouched, in his mid-50s, and had a sorrowful expression in his eyes that suggested he had been grieving for years. With his hands buried deep in his jacket pockets, he entered silently and nodded courteously to Theresa without grinning. His restrained energy immediately caught her attention. Theresa said a warm greeting. "Hello, sweetheart. My name is Theresa. Are you prepared?" David paused. He acknowledged, "I'm not sure I even believe in this. My daughter dragged me here. She believes that you can assist her." Theresa laughed. "Listen, whether or not you believe in me is irrelevant. What spirit says is what counts. So, let's simply wait and see what occurs." He sat down grudgingly and nodded. Theresa sensed a powerful presence as soon as she closed her eyes. The spirit of an older, fatherly guy. Her hand was placed against her chest. "You mean David? A father figure is stepping up for me. He claims that you have been keeping a small but significant piece of his memory in your pocket." It was the first time that David's face transformed. He blinked quickly. "What?" Theresa went on. "This guy, your father? He is displaying a coin to me, or perhaps a small memento. Right now, it's in your pocket. He is referring to it as proof." David stopped. Instinctively, he reached for his jacket pocket, but he took nothing out. His eyes squinted with suspicion. "How are you aware of that?" he muttered. Theresa bent across. "He's telling me that's why. He claims that despite your claims that you don't believe in ghosts or signs, you carry it with you every day. But you've been longing for this in your heart." David took his hand out of his pocket slowly. A little, worn silver coin with a hole punched through the top was in his palm. It had lost its shine and appeared worn out from years of use. David's voice broke as he said, "My father. When I was 12 years old, my father gave me this coin. I should keep it for luck," he advised. "I vowed never to pull it out of my pocket again after he died. It has existed for more than 3 decades. Theresa grinned gently, her words encased in a familiar blanket of Long Island accent. He's saying, son, I've been with you the entire time, in that way. Every day, every stride, every pocket. He claims that you always questioned whether he witnessed the person you developed into. He is proud, and he wants you to know that. David gazed at the coin, his hands shaking. He had kept it a secret from everyone, including his wife, for years. It was how he kept his father close to his heart. The wall he had constructed around his grief seemed to crumble as he heard Theresa talk about it word for word. Theresa wasn't finished, though. He's mentioning your daughter as well. She reminds him of your mother, he says, with the same humor and stubbornness. He wants you to be less harsh with her. She only needs your presence, not perfection. David, that's your proof as well. You were brought here by her, right? David wiped his tears and nodded. Indeed. I needed this, she said. I informed her that it was absurd. Theresa extended her hand across the table as though to offer guidance, but she did not touch him. Spirit sometimes provides us with indisputable proof. It's more than simply a memory, that dime in your pocket. There is a relationship. He uses it to convey the message, you're never walking alone. David smiled for the first time, a genuine, unfettered smile. He appeared lighter, as though years of quiet had been broken. Returning the penny to his pocket, he patted it as a promise rather than merely a habit. Reluctant to leave, David waited at the door after the reading. I came here a skeptic, he remarked softly, turning back to Theresa. However, I have no idea who I am now. My father is still with me. That's all I know. And you provided me with evidence that I was unaware I was seeking. Theresa tilted her head and smiled. That's spirit, my love. They always manage to place the evidence in your pocket. Then David put his palm over his heart and over the coin and stepped out into the cool fall air. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mina, and I hope you're having a great day. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video.